With so many animals on Earth, and at times the survival of one depends on the defeat of the other, that is not what we want to hear when it comes to our dear pets. This python twisted a mama dog. Seconds later, the unimaginable happened. The mother dog was absolutely intent on protecting her puppies from the large snake positioned in front of them. Keeping all three of them safe was nearly impossible. The puppies ran everywhere. She jumped in front of them as far as she could. She was all into her pups. When the PIP on lunged, it grabbed her and started to twist around the mama dog while her humans were inside the house. The python started to squeeze and hold on. Her time was running out. She couldn't bark. She could barely breathe. Did the dog understand how close she was to death? If she didn't make it, she would leave a huge hole in her family. She was loved as any other member of the family. When Anna and Peter took over the family farm, they found that their old family dog wouldn't be enough to guard their new huge property in South Africa. That's why they decided to get another German Shepherd dog. The new pup was named Brutus. He grew strong, surrounded by the love that Anna and Peter poured into his training, and developed a firm bond with his family, especially with Peter. Brutus followed him everywhere. He was sweet, but his behavior would make Anna nervous. Soon after the puppy's arrival, the older dog passed away, which means she was left all alone when Bruce and Peter were out of the farm. It could be scary since Anna didn't grow up on the farm. There was nothing like a night at, and there were no street lamps as far as the eye could see from their house in the African bush. It could get thick and, so to speak, not talk of the presence of some particular animals like jackals with their unkempt cries in the night. It can be a magical feeling to experience, but might be scary if you happen to be outside on your own sometimes. Sometimes Peter stayed overnight, and that freaked Anna out. He knew this, and hence he thought he had an idea. He got home and asked Anna to go get some stuff from the pickup truck. An unusual request, but she did not think twice about it. Just went outside. In the passenger seat sat a small female German Shepherd waiting for her. The puppy wiggled and licked her face as soon as Anna picked her up. Anna was charmed, and so is Brutus. They called the pup Coco. The two dogs instantly became best friends. But one day, everything changed in the most tragic way imaginable. By the time Coco was 3 years old, they had fallen into a nice rhythm. Brutus still went out with Peter, but Coco stayed glued to Anna. One day, Peter came back from the field, and he asked where Brutus was. Anna hadn't seen the dog all day. She had thought he had gone with Peter. It was then that panic set in. They knew straight away that something was not right. Coco had been acting anxious and edgy all day. Anna shut her in the house because she continually barked and tried to run off. Anna and Peter are aware. The time had to be determined since the dog was last seen. Shock came in realizing early that morning, when he first went out, was the last time. He normally went out first before Coco, who loved sleeping in later. Not going with him may have been a fatal mistake. They couldn't believe they hadn't noticed the dog was missing. In a matter of minutes, it was going to get so much worse. When they took Coco out on a leash, they hoped she would lead them to Brutus. But they didn't want her to get away from them in case there was any danger around. They had to be careful. The dog barked as she started to rush toward the bush. She rushed, and the couple followed along the dirt path just beyond the house. There, they saw something that made them feel sick. The snake that slithered through there must have been huge, but that was not what caught their attention. It was the thing next to the snake track that sent chills down. Tufts of dog hair lay next to the snake track. Black and brown pieces of fur lay all around it, and in it were streaks of blood. Something terrible had happened there. Then Coco cried softly. Anna and Peter knew he too knew what had happened. They were not going to find Brutus. It was getting dark, and they wouldn't be able to do anything more that night. Heartbroken, they all went back home. Peter was furious. He couldn't. He slept, and at the first light, he went out to search for the snake. There was nothing to do for Brutus. However, they did not want a huge snake so close to the house. They also had a chicken coop in their yard, and they thought it would be too vulnerable if the situation slipped once again out of control. Peter searched everywhere without any results. After having such a terrible and large lunch the previous day, they expected to spot the snake quickly, but they couldn't find it. They saw the tracks, but then he went into the thick grass in the tree. Trail vanished. It was as if he had been plucked up and transported. The snake had vanished. For days, they continued to search for it, but it had simply vanished. For months, it remained missing. Of course, when it was in hiding, it wasn't gone entirely. Winter set in, and the snake most likely found a nice, warm place to sleep through the cooler months. Anna and Peter were sorrowful back home and full of guilt. Even Coco seemed a bit off. Much sleepier than she was normally, she was napping far more than usual. She was even gaining weight due to lack of her usual activity. It was normally was, or so they thought, until Anna realized something amazing. Coco was pregnant. She was going to have Brutus puppies. Of course, that would be just like having a small part of him back. They just had to make sure the puppies would stay safe and that Coco would remain healthy. They made sure she stayed close to the house for months, but nothing scary happened. They also kept a close eye on Coco. It would be devastating to lose her, or any of the puppies. It was all planned out in detail. They would take her to the vet a day or two before the delivery. Then the vet would take her home when she was ready to deliver the puppies. Could take care of her through birth, but puppies, just like babies, don't wait for other people's timelines. One night, when the couple came home from dinner, Coco was napping in her bed. Only she wasn't alone. Two tiny puppies laying next to her. Anna and Peter was shocked. Then Coco stood up again and started to pace. They grabbed the puppies to make sure she didn't trample them, and soon her third puppy was born. She licked him, but he didn't move. Peter picked him up and gently rubbed him on his chest. He blew onto the tiny puppy's nose. Suddenly, the puppy was breathing. Peter placed him back next to Coco, and she lay down, feeding her three puppies. It was adorable. The little boy they almost lost looked just like Brutus as a puppy. It was bittersweet. For months, the family and their pets enjoyed life without too much drama. The puppies were such a joy, and it was loads of fun to have them. The family had time to heal from the loss of Brutus. Sadly, that feeling wasn't going to last too long. Danger was still a lot closer than they could imagine by the time spring arrived. The puppies were larger, and they could play outside. Coco was a fantastic mom, and she made sure the puppies didn't stray too far. They had them in a playpen most of the time, but now they could run free. They should have been safe, but living in the African bush, even sticking close to home, could be dangerous. Peter had fenced the house, making sure the dogs couldn't run into the bush on their own, but that wasn't going to help on this particular day. Co was focused on keeping the puppies all together while they were playing out in the yard, but then a sound, either a vision or an odor, told her something unusual was happening. Before she knew it, the puppies were almost on top of this giant python. So she jumped in front trying to ward them off, but the puppies were still young and curious enough that they didn't quite understand how close they were to mortal danger. They tried edging closer for a better look at the snake. Every time one got closer, Coco jumped in front of them again and attempted to keep them away from the snake. It wasn't easy keeping track, rear of all three, and keeping them out of danger. She was focused on them and didn't see the snake start to move. Then the snake struck. If Coco had been watching herself, she might have been able to dodge it. Then again, this was likely the same snake that took Brutus, so who knows what could happen. Before she knew it, it was wrapped around her, and it was twisting tight. Anna was in the house, and she heard Coco bark. She was just on her way to check when the dog stopped. She thought that meant everything was fine. What she didn't know was that the dog stopped barking because the air was being squeezed out from her. Peter was out in his workshop, and he didn't see it. If either of them checked the live cameras, they might have known the danger their dog was in. But they didn't. Coco was at the mercy of the snake. She couldn't bark, and she could barely take a breath. Was this going to be the end? Was this snake going to make the three puppies orphans? The python twisted the mama dog, and seconds later, the unimaginable happened just as it seemed like all hope was lost. The three puppies began to bark furiously. They even tried to bite the snake, but they didn't make much of an impression. All they achieved was getting the snake angry, causing it to bite down on poor Coco, making sure it could hold on to its prey. It pulled tighter and held on to her. The puppies couldn't do much, but their furious barking got Anna's attention in the house. They had never sounded angry. Not hearing Coco now suddenly scared her. Anna couldn't believe what she was seeing right there in front of her. She screamed at Peter to come as quickly as he could and to bring vinegar with him. She was nauseous. Her gaze fell upon the sight in front of her favorite dog, Coco, being squished by one of the biggest pythons Anna had ever seen. The three puppies beside her were only watching their mama get squished. Anna scooped them up and placed them in a puppy crate that was nearby. That was the last thing she needed, them getting harmed. Anna screamed at Peter again, and this time he came running. Anna's desperate screams told him all he needed to know. She was scared the instant she saw that huge python wrapped around their dog. He knew why. He also knew this snake was likely irresponsibly having caused the loss of their beloved Brutus. They were determined not to lose another dog to this python. They took the vinegar and poured some on the snake's mouth. They knew it might hurt Coco and burn in the wound the snake had given her. But survival was more important at that moment. The snake tasted the vinegar and stopped clamping down, loosening its grip on her body as it tried to move away from the taste. This gave Peter and Anna an opportunity to get their hands between the snake and the German Shepherd, starting at its tail and started unwrapping it. The tail is the weakest part of a python and the best place to start. Gently, they had to unwrap it to get it away from Coco. While they unraveled, they were also holding on to its head, keeping it away from Coco so it could not bite again. And soon she was free. They didn't know how much damage it had already done and how much of her body was crushed inside. But straight away after freeing her from this snake, she started to breathe deep and whimper. She was still alive, after all. While Peter was still holding the snake, he ran and brought a huge bucket. It would have been so easy to take revenge on this animal now. It had already cost them one dog, and they had absolutely no idea if Coco would make it. These were people who lived in close communion with nature. They knew the python was just a wild animal trying to survive. They wouldn't kill it for revenge. Still, they did not want it anywhere near the house. Finding easy prey, it could keep returning. They punched some holes in the lid of the bucket and later took the python to a snake shelter, where it would be cared for. And live in a huge enclosure wouldn't be a threat to their pets or livestock ever again. But first, they had to take Coco to the vet. They placed the puppy safely inside and then rushed the mama to the clinic. She was awake and alert, but in pain. The snake could have broken her bones or crushed her organs. Plus, they needed to make sure that the bite didn't get infected. A python isn't venomous, but it could still get infected. The veterinarian gave her a scan, and she had a few broken ribs, but she was incredibly lucky. If her puppies hadn't tried to protect her and alert the humans, things could have been very different. They had to make sure that the puppies didn't climb up on their mama for a few days, and they kept her wound clean. Before they knew it, Coco was doing a lot better. She was safe, and the puppies were too. Peter and Anna decided to keep all three of them. They had plenty of space for all four dogs to enjoy. The male pup they saved at birth grew up to live up to his dad's legacy and built just as much of a bond with Peter as Brutus once had. The family stayed together. As for the snake, it was released into a massive natural enclosure where he could feel free without being able to return to the farm. He wouldn't put himself in danger by going to other farms either. It was best for everyone. Would you have been as kind to the snake? Thanks for watching. Join us again for even more incredible stories that will inspire you.